witches.
Hi, hello, and welcome back. Welcome back to another episode.
Nesta
My
centric.
book is dirty.
Oh no.
It looks dusty, but it's not. Oh no. That's gonna bug me. Anyways. Nesta! Listen, chapter 9. I squealed when I read this.
I kind of shipped this, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, 100%. Like, besties right off the bat. If not besties, lovers out, like, at minimum. Like, that's what I'm requesting.
I picked up some tension.
It's like, who are you?
Right? I liked it.
100% agree. So Nesta is up at Windhaven, and Cassian has some business to do, and so instead of standing there freezing or sitting in a cottage and listening to the fire, Cassian was like, there are some shops you can go to. So she's like, bet I'm gonna go. So she walks into this one small shop, and she sees a woman there, and it's Emery from a previous from one of the previous books. Very small, like, walk in, like, hey, give all of these, like, people to everybody who doesn't have a home kind of thing, when there was, like, a bad winter coming. And that's as far as we got with her. And I wanted more, and you best fucking believe we got more.
Yes.
I also forgot that her name was Emery, and that's my name on a lot of my, not my social media, but like my games. That's like my name for everything.
I know, you sent me
It's
that
like
screenshot.
a mix. It's like a mix between, like, I had cousins growing up that couldn't ever say like the full Emily, so like Emery, it was always like just Emmy or Emery, like the nickname, just growing up.
Yeah.
So, bitch, I'm famous. Oh, but I love it. Oh, I love the character so much.
I was here for that combo. Like, I'm just imagining Nesta, Emery, Clotho, and another character that we meet here in a few minutes. Just being like a badass foursome of fighters.
Yes. And honestly, wait, when do we meet the new character?
Or we haven't already met her, right?
No, I think we meet her this episode.
This chapter.
So I'll save that thought for later.
Yeah, literally, like.
But Nesta and Emery are so similar. Like, they have different upbringings, yes, but like,
right,
they've both
like
gone
if
through
it weren't
something
for the
so
fact
traumatic that changed them.
Yeah. If it weren't for the fact that, like, I need Nesta and Cassian to be together, I would be very for Cassian and Emery. Or Nesta
Cassian
and Emery, honestly.
I was going to say, no, Nesta and Emery. Like, I feel like
I just
Cassian...
remember from the previous book, I really liked Cassian and Emery.
Yeah, the little... now, they came from, like, the same background. So, yes, I agree with that. But I don't know, the fact that Emery is like this strong, independent woman by herself, I think Nesta was like, I could do that. I could be that person. Yeah. And she was starting to see it for herself.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately what she needs to see. If she could see that, like, it could be done, then she's going to strive for it. But
I love how fucking sassy the house is getting with Nesta. Like,
it's like
she's
Encanto.
like,
it's like
it tries to, yes, like, it tries to give her lunch, and she's like, I'm not hungry, And then she goes to the library and starts her shift. And then she sits down because she just needs a minute. And the house is like, here's the same lunch I tried to give you a couple hours ago. And she's like, I'm not hungry. And then it gives it it pops up a spoon and a napkin. She's like, it's none of your business. And it gives her water. Like, it's just so sassy. And I love it.
And then
And
and then
then,
she's like, this person's like, who are you talking to?
because Nesta's just talking to the house. Like,
It's like it's a being listening to her and talking to her, and it's just great because nobody else around her is like, the fuck.
yeah,
And
nobody
I
else
wonder
talks to the house
too,
the way that she does.
yeah, and I wonder too if, I mean, she could be a little delusional. I mean, she's been by herself. She doesn't really have that, what is it? The socialization that she normally has. And when she's with the people that would socialize with her, other than like having sex or drinking with her, they always fight. So
Right?
like she's not really having this legitimate conversation except for with the house. So she could be kind of going a little bit delusional. But what if this power with the house is actually like similar enchantment and all of that to her power from the cauldron? And
That's what
that's
I
why it
was
works for her.
thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like maybe she has something in common with the house, like something of the power and the
Yeah.
magic of the house and the library
Hmm.
is similar to hers. That's what I was thinking. But that voice that said, "Who are you talking to?"
Is the new character.
is the new character. Her name is Gwen, and I this book is centered around like strong female characters rather than fucking Feyre. Don't get me wrong, Feyre was a strong female character, but she was also had such Gryffindor energy that it pissed me off. These bad bitches all have more Slytherin energy, and I'm here for it.
Yes. I just like how it doesn't matter what happened to them. They are doing right by the people around them, right by themselves, and like just it's strong female character. Like it's what we need in the world right now. And
Yeah,
it's so great. And I also really like that there's a character in here. So like Clotho, when you look at her, her hands are mangled. She's unable to speak. She's unable to write. So she enchants like a pen to write for her. Um, but I like that we look at Gwen and there's no visible marks on her anywhere near her. And um Nesta actually made a like thought to herself, like, well, maybe it's underneath the robe, or maybe it's there's nothing and it's just what's within. And then she starts like kind of doing that spiral on herself, like just like me, I'm a monster within kind of thing. And I
yeah,
like that we have another character like that because that could ultimately bring Nesta out of her shell to
yeah,
see that there are other people with this, because like Emery has no wings, so she is
right.
unable to fly, so that's her marking. Clotho with the hands,
Mm-hmm.
so Nesta's not alone in her
Well, because
I'm a monster thing.
you always get that like oh look, that person has it worse than I do kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Um, but that doesn't matter. Like your feelings are still valid. And honestly, I I don't I don't know if that person does have it worse than Nesta right now. Like, although I will say, like later on, if we do discuss Gwen's story, we do find out a little more about her background and why she's in the library. And trigger warning when we get there. Just
Yeah,
throwing it out there now
hardcore
that
trigger warning.
there are some big trigger warnings in some of these library
um
people's stories.
the oh, what is it, you also kind of get the idea too where like where you see somebody parking like handicap parking or something and then they get out but they look fine, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like, are they going in for like a quick 5 minutes or are they going to be in there for a while? Like some, not all people can stand on their feet for super long time but without passing out. So if they're walking in to grab something and leaving right away, then like they can make it work. Or if they're going in to sit down, like if it's at a restaurant, but like
Yeah.
people are like shitheads when it comes to that. They're like, oh,
Yes,
they
they
look
are.
fine.
And
So
it can be
she's
fatigue
got a
for like
sticker too.
right, like it's wild. People just need to learn to mind their own business. Um,
For real though.
but yeah, I just ugh.
I don't know. I really like this character because this character is sassy despite everything. She is so
Yes.
fucking sassy and I love it.
Yes, I am loving it right now. Ah!
And I think Emery and Gwen, even though they're not bless you,
Oh my gosh.
allergies are full swing. Um I feel
Yes.
like
Well,
Emery and Gwen, huh?
yeah. I was just gonna say, like
Uh
the wildfires in Canada are making the air quality really poor here.
oh yeah.
Like we literally have air quality warnings every day, and I am dying.
Yeah,
But anyway,
Casey
Emery and Gwen.
Casey sent me a picture of her face and she's like, "Well, I guess it's back to this." And I was like, "Huh?" And I don't have cable and I don't if I see something like a news channel, I try swiping past it because news channels are like just owned by all the companies and it's always like
Hmm.
one way or the other. And because of like family I'm friends with, it's always like Fox News and it's always like what I disagree with. So I
Yeah,
just I just try not to pay attention to that and just scroll. I didn't know there were wildfires in Canada.
there are. I learned
Ignorance is
about them
bliss,
through my
apparently.
weather app.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't notice anything. I noticed a little bit like breathing was difficult some days, like, but I didn't know if it was just the heat and me getting used to it. And then when she sent me that picture with her wearing literally like a COVID mask, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
And then she sends me the picture of what New York City looked like at like 3 p.m. one day, where it was just like red ash. She's like,
yeah,
this is basically my view while at work. And I was like, oh, no, that
yeah.
looks horrible.
And it's literally
And I
affecting the air
noticed,
quality all the way down here. Like,
yeah, well, I noticed too that on one of the days we actually had poor air quality. It didn't say why, it just said like air quality was like higher. And then somebody from work was like, yeah, the wildfires are fucking up the air. Not too bad as like northern states, but it's still kind of working on it. And I was like, oh, that's probably why I'm breathing rough.
yeah, it's been rough. All our animals too. We took our dog. I took the dog to the vet yesterday, and the vet was like, "Yep, these all this smoke in the air," and I was like, "Yup,
Yeah.
it's
I had to
great."
take the dogs to the vet to get their allergy meds because they are scratching nonstop.
Yeah,
It's just expensive. It's $200 a dog, if not more. It's like 250, 400 almost. So depending on everything, it's just really expensive. But
pets are
anyways,
expensive.
yeah. So anyways, I think Emery and Gwen are going to be good for Nesta. They're both like
Agreed.
her and they want the same treatment. Like, hey, I might have been doing this, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm still the same person kind of thing.
Yeah, don't pity me kind of like vibes.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I
I
think was
think
it Gwen
that's
that said
what
that?
yeah, in her because Nesta realizes why she's here, like something happened with her. She's here
Yeah,
for a reason. Then she's like, don't pity me. And it's like, oh.
yeah.
And I think Emery said the same thing to Cassian or
I
similar,
think you're
something
right.
similar to him in the previous book. So it's just good for him. I think it's going to be good for her. It's going to
I
bring her out of her
agree.
shell.
I agree.
Oh, I just
That's
lost
all
my
I
spot.
had in chapter 9.
Same. We
Um,
also learned that Gwen is from Sangrava, and I've
yes,
never seen it as part of the map, but I always wondered where she came from. I was like, why do I hear that? Like, why do I know that name?
right.
Like, where was it linked? Like, who said what? And I was like, oh, it's probably on the map. No, it's within Prynthian somewhere,
Yeah, it's one of the
possibly.
it's one of the temples that was attacked when Hybern was looking for the parts of the cauldron.
Yeah.
So that's where we would have heard it before. Um,
But they focused on Césaire more, or
yeah,
Césaire, whatever it is, more than Sangreva. So when that name popped back up, I was like, the fuck? Who's
right.
that?
Like, where, what, huh?
Anyways, yeah. Um. Anyways, chapter 10.
Yes, chapter 10. So I love that Cassian was like, who are you talking to? Like, I love that no one else talks to the house. Like, you just have this
Yeah.
sentient thing that does everything for you and you don't ever talk to it. Like,
And you're just like, whatever, this is magic.
she's like, I'm talking to the house.
She's so confused. She's like, you never talk to the house either?
Right. Like,
Honestly, if
it's weird.
I said that out loud and somebody was like, no, I don't talk to the house, I'd be like, all right, well, it's fucking insane now.
Yeah. Also, um, what page did I write down? 118. So on page 118, finally someone, and it's the house, realizes that Nesta doesn't like fire. Like, and it warmed up the room without fire, which is super crazy to me. But I'm just like, when is someone else going to realize that like fire is an issue and maybe, ask what's wrong, which I'm sure if they asked, she would be like, fuck off. But
Nothing. I'm
yeah.
fine.
And then, oh my gosh. Okay. So she goes to sleep because the fire goes away and the house warms the bed. Um, and then she starts dreaming or nightmaring, I guess is more
Yeah.
apt.
Nightmaring.
She has a nightmare. Um, and it's all about Elaine um being taken and her father dying and how it's all her fault, all her fault, all her fault. And then she's like, I'm gonna go down the fucking stairs because I need a drink.
She's like, I am done. And she takes a tumble.
This bitch. And throws out her hand to stop herself from falling. Sparks fly and she stops tumbling. Um, but her hand is like in the fucking wall.
Yeah, and I was curious about this. Like, is this like her Fae powers that no one knew about, or is this like the Cauldron blessed? Is she Cauldron blessed?
I don't know. Some kind of powers manifested themselves. But I'm just like,
You know,
eventually she'll learn her fucking lesson, right? Like, and she'll stop trying to go down these stairs.
yeah. I actually was scrolling through Facebook one day and I've been getting a lot of SJM stuff. And it was a picture of this scene and I was like, "The fuck? What is this?" And I was like, "That's probably a spoiler. Let me scroll on
Let me
by."
keep going. Right?
I guess it wasn't really a spoiler because it was just like it was just like a handprint burned into the side of the like a spiral staircase.
Right.
But when I think stairs, like 10,000 stairs, I don't think spiral staircase. I, for some god awful reason, was thinking like when you have like a cliff and you have like
Like the
stairs
zigzag.
outside that, yeah, that like lead to like the beach or like the ocean or like the huge stairway like all on in like a trail. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Like
I
one
remember it
straight
saying
path.
spiral. Like, just because she always is like around and around and around and around. So I was
Yeah, like
imagining
before, I
spiral,
guess.
but yeah.
So like when everybody
Yeah,
was
no,
like,
like
"Yeah, I don't want
before
to
this
take the
book.
10,000 steps." Yeah, so when she's like around and around, I was like, "What?"
It makes a lot more sense than to be spiral though, just like space wise.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, I was like, "Well, I guess I guess that's true. It's not like she's walking on the side of a mountain." I don't know what I was thinking, just seeing like, "Oh, look, there they are. Well, they'll be here in an hour." Okay. Like I don't know. That's what I was thinking.
I The last thing I wrote for this chapter was just I wrote come on Nesta, but then I got to thinking about it And this is, I got to thinking about it before I read the next chapter. And I was like, I wouldn't want to train there with all these assholes who are wanting me to fail either. Like, I don't think I
Yeah.
would be able to get myself to get up because they're all just sitting there watching, waiting for her to fail. I have a lot of pride like Nesta does, and I don't know that I would be able to make myself get up and make a fool of myself in front of them either.
Yeah. In other words, it's stage fright, but yeah.
Yeah, basically, like just I don't like to look stupid.
Girl, I feel that. I feel that. The last thing I said about this was just like she is so close. Like it was like right there. Like they were so close, and it's like God, she. Mm.
I know. But this next chapter gets a little better. Chapter
Yeah,
11. First of all,
the
why is the
house.
house her fucking therapist? Like
She's trying to have a secluded dinner with one of her smutty books by herself in the library, and the house refuses to open the door for her.
yeah, will not let her in the library. Will not do it.
And does not matter how many times she says, "Open this door." It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it basically makes her go eat with Cassian and Azriel in the
And I think
dining
that's
room or
great.
whatever. Yeah, right. But also like in this chapter and at the end of the last chapter, I feel like she says 7 or 8 times, "I'm not training in that miserable village." Okay,
Yes,
so
she
train
puts
somewhere
a
else.
point on that. Yes, I'm sitting there. I'm like, girl, same. Like, and I'm sitting here the entire time. Like, why are they flying to Windhaven when there's literally a training rink right there? Like, Feyre
Right,
trained right
Feyre
there.
trained
Why
there.
can't she?
Yes,
Why can't Nesta? It's like, why Windhaven? Like,
yes. I was thinking the
the fuck?
same thing. Like that just seems like an extra added layer of torture that's not necessary.
You could sleep in longer. You can enjoy your breakfast a little bit more. You could read more of your book. Like,
You don't have to deal with
the
the
fuck
fucking
you mean? And you're
dickheads.
not freezing your ass off up
Right.
there.
Yeah. So,
But still, I hope Emery gets her like fur
yeah.
lined leather chaps. That'd be great.
Yes.
Maybe not chaps, but um,
Sorry. I didn't write anything down about this, but um
you just
on the
remembered
next
it.
page 125, I was or 126, I mean, I was starting to like flip to the next page that I had stuff written down, but um Asriel asks Nesta what happened to her because she fell down the stairs and she's got
Oh
like
yeah, she's
bruises and
bruised.
scratches and
Yeah,
it's not healing super quickly. And she says nothing, and Cassian says she fell down the stairs, and As goes, "Did someone push you?" Cassian goes, "Asshole."
listen, listen. If I were as, I'd be saying the same fucking thing. I would sit there
Right?
and be like, "Who did it? Like,
Right?
someone did it. There is no way in hell this bitch went down the stairs and fell. Who did it?"
Right?
I would refuse to believe it. It doesn't matter even if the person fell. I'd be like, "You're getting abused. Who fucking did it?"
Yeah, I was cracking up.
And here's the logical part of this. Cassian says and does shit that pisses her off, that gets a rise out of her, that does things that fuck, that makes her do things, like makes her do all of the things she doesn't want to do. You want to go down the stairs so bad? Let me push you. And that's going to get a rise out of her. And then he'd be like, well, if you were strong enough, you would have dodged it, or you would have done this, or you would have done that. I guess you could be training with me. And you know what? That's the toxicity bullshit that I would follow. I'd be like, you right. Let's go train. Like,
Right? Like that reverse psychology, like, fuck you, bitch.
yeah,
Don't tell me I can't do it.
exactly. That's what, and
Yes.
then I'm sitting here like, I mean, that's so true. I would do the same thing. Yes. You're right.
Yes.
Ugh. But it wasn't the case.
No. Um, I don't have anything else
Oh,
till page 131.
ooh. Um, what is it? There was one where I wrote like that was intense.
Oh, probably
Um,
where he was like, "Everyone hates you."
yes, exactly that. So she's actively saying like, okay, well, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Um, I mean, being a little shithead about it, yes. Um, and she let her true colors fly when it came to Reese. She was just like, I fucking hate Reese. Like, I think he's an asshole. What about your precious High Lord? Like, she doesn't. She comes from a world where there are no High Lords. There are no kings and queens and princes. There's people with money that have huge estates and they essentially run the place. That's not like she doesn't come from a place with the High Lord. So she's just used to just having these richer people. Like she was one of them.
Yeah,
So then she goes from that to having to live under this person's rule and forcing her to do things she's not wanting to do. So of course she's going to be a little testy with Reese, and about him.
and also
And
I think there's probably some jealousy there too. Like,
I think she's always wanted a good relationship with Feyre, and
yeah,
I think she knows she was a shithead and that she shouldn't have done certain things. She should have gone out into the forest. She should have done XYZ.
yeah.
Listen, if somebody wants to rewrite this story, but with Nesta being Feyre, but like with Nesta's personality, I want to see that.
Yeah, I
I
would
think
read
that'd be
that.
great.
I would
Um,
1000% read that.
but so she knows like Reese has an issue with her, and I mean that's her issue with herself. She feels like she never stepped up for anything, and that pissed Cassian off because she wasn't letting it go, and he straight up was like, "Well, everyone fucking hates you. Feyre
Yep.
hates you. Everyone fucking hates you." And that was it. They started yelling, and um, well, yep, and it was absolutely intense, and I feel bad for Az because he's just sitting there. I know he's pissed off about the like Reese comment, but he's just sitting there like,
Okay. Well, especially because
just
after all of that, he said, she's like, "Oh, am I supposed to feel gratitude to you?" And he says, "Now I tell you I'm done." And then she goes, "Does that mean you're done panting after me as well? Because what a relief that will be to know you've finally taken the hint." And like, Az is just sitting there like, like I feel like it's one of those like in the cartoons where you see the kids sitting there like eating their popcorn and they look at the mom and then they turn and they look at the dad like I feel like it's that like Az is probably just like
exactly,
oh
yeah. And he's pissed, so he goes and sits up on the roof, and here comes Feyre butting her nose in.
no Feyre.
And I get it. I mean, if I sent my sister to go up there, I'd feel like I'd have to, handle her.
Especially when Reese is like Cassian's thinking loudly.
Yeah, but oh well. It's kind of
But
nice to
they
see her like more adult like behavior.
yeah. And they're like talking back and forth about like Nesta and how they're gonna make things happen. And Feyre's like, she hates me. I know what it looks like. She doesn't hate you. Um,
Yeah.
and she's like,
And
what do we do?
Amron's still saying to like keep reaching out to her,
Yeah.
and he's just like, no.
And then all of
And
a sudden,
finally the big brute brain like comes into play.
yes, finally, um, he's like, maybe the
He's like,
library work will be
I
enough. And
should have
Feyre's
known.
like, no, she can hide in the library. And she's like, he's like, well, she said she's not training in that miserable village, so we're at an impasse. And Fair's like, it seems like it. And then he pauses, blinks, and like looks down at the training ring right the fuck in front of him where um he trained Feyre, and it's like, okay. And then you see um him, it like click for him, and he's like, ah, okay, I'm gonna try training here tomorrow.
One last time, he says he'd try
Yeah,
one last time. And it's like, yeah, Cassian, keep reaching out, you idiot.
right.
And
So
then
then the
on to
next
chapter
morning,
12.
yeah, yes, chapter 12. The next morning, they're gonna train, and they're gonna train at the House of Wind, and he makes a bargain with her.
I know. And she's like, ugh, I don't know if I should do this.
I feel like this is going to backfire immensely on
Honestly, like,
Cassian. I feel like
so,
Nesta speaks her emotions a lot, and I could see her being like, "Do me a favor and jump off a bridge," or like I could see her saying something. I mean, not that jumping off a bridge would
I
do
mean,
anything for Cassian,
he
but
did
like,
straight up say, like, I'm not gonna sit here and, like, fly off an edge of a cliff and then, like, not save myself before my head's, like, hits the ground. He
right,
did say that. He's like, "Oh, we ain't doing that."
right, but like, what if she said something like that would just hurt him, but that wouldn't,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
make him miserable.
yeah,
Here's the thing, though. Uh, yes, this could backfire on Cassian, but I feel like the moment they had with the King of Hybern really, really, really set the mood for like their relationship. Like she doesn't hate him, he doesn't hate her. They're just two very emotion led people. And um I I just don't think she'd have the heart to hurt him or like kill him in a way. I do think she would attempt to make the bargain to like get her a drink or at least out of the house, like fly her down to get a drink or pleasure herself or whatever the case may be, or just force the house to give her a drink, one of the two. But I think the
yeah,
house, I mean, is on her side, but I feel like the house is like, "No, this is good for you. We're not doing this."
right. Like the
So,
house
it would
is
have to
its
be
got its own
Cassian.
plan.
Yeah, I think Cassie would have to fly her down
Yeah,
just to make it work.
I could see that.
But but in a change turn of events of denial for like the last however many days, she says yes.
Yes, she does.
And they start training.
And then on page 137, um, where is it at? It's towards the top of the page. He took off his shirt because he's looking for the tattoo that came with the bargain, which ends up being like an 8-pointed star or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, so he has his shirt off, and she's checking him out, and it's like he might have flexed slightly, and I just was dying.
Just a little one, just to be like, oh yeah, I got this mark, but I'm not like purposefully like flaunting the goods to you.
Yes. And then they start training and working on basically balance.
Which is smart.
Yeah, I mean you got to start with the basics, right? Um I was on page 139, um at the bottom where she's talking about how it feels to like go to the gym and how there's no one there to see her fail at the basics and fail at the easy
Hmm.
shit. Like I'm like, this is why I will not go to a public gym. And I'm like, I think I'm
At least by
Nesta.
myself, right? And like I straight up, so my friend was like, "Hey, why don't you go to the gym with me?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "You don't want to work out?" And I was like, "It's not that. It's just I don't want to go to the gym with people one that come into our work. I mean, there's like three people that literally come in and know like my friend's face because of going to the gym. But I was like, I don't. want to go and then look like a fucking idiot because then my anxiety is just going to get the better of me and then I'm just not going to come back.
I
And I don't want
literally
to,
cannot work out at the
yeah.
gym.
And
Even
I
like
was
walking
like,
on a treadmill, can't do it.
right. Cause then I'm like, well, I'm not, I could be walking outside. Why am I walking at the gym? Like,
Or I'm
why
not
am I
walking fast
here?
enough. I'm not going fast
Yeah.
enough. That person's
I'm
walking
not
faster than I
running.
am. Yeah.
Right. And she's like, yeah, but it'll be okay. And I was like, no, I'm not.
You don't have anxiety, do you?
Oh, she does. That's the thing. But different ways, a different type
Yeah.
of anxiety. The anxiety she's got is like she'd see something and be like, all right, I gotta fix this.
Mm.
Kind of
But
thing.
it's
So
not
like
like
she,
self-deprecating anxiety, or at least not physically. Like yeah.
yeah, like it's not as bad. Um, but yes, in a way, yes, depends on the situation. Let's just put it that way. But
Like it.
I was like, I'm not spending $20 a month on a gym thing that I'm never going to use. I'm probably just going to go there for tanning and be done with it. Like, I'm not
The
doing
only
that.
way I would pay for a gym membership is if the place had a pool.
Yeah.
Because I do like to swim. Like I was on the swim team in high school. So like I
Those are so expensive, though.
they are. And so then it's not worth it.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna. I have a gym at my apartment. I'm just gonna use my gym, but my gym is so fucking tiny that like if I share it with somebody else, I'm gonna breathe on them, and then
Right?
I'm just
You're
like,
gonna be
nope.
able to smell me.
Yeah. So like Will and I tried to work out before we left Indiana at our old apartment, and what like we had the entire place to ourselves. It's not a very big place, but we had the place to ourselves, and this dude just came in and like we were only there for 20 minutes and I straight up was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And he goes, we just got here. And I was like, nope, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I don't want to do this anymore. And
Yeah, I
I had
can't.
to leave. And he wasn't even paying attention to us, but that's what I felt. And that's what happened. And so like, this is the same with walking. I don't want to walk outside.
I feel
Um,
like people are like watching me out their windows and shit when I take the dog for a walk.
they're like, yeah, that bitch needs to go walk. Yeah.
I'm
That's
sure they're not. Like, I'm sure there's no
oh,
one looking out their windows at me.
100% no, they're not. But I mean, maybe. I don't know.
But like,
People
I
are kind of
feel like they
shitheads.
are.
Yeah. So I just want to work out in the privacy of my own home. I got like the hula hoop thing. So I do that. And
Oh,
then
I
I
keep
do,
seeing that on TikTok.
yeah, I haven't done it consistently enough to see a change. So don't ask me. But it was on sale. I got it for like $10 when they were having
Nice.
like a 50 off sale on Amazon. So I was like, fuck yeah. If it doesn't work, I only missed $10.
I like it.
But yeah, I mean, I can understand why she's like, I don't want to do anything of that. But I mean, the nice thing is too is that the working out and breathing and stretches have actually helped clear her mind. So she's at least getting some like vacation from her thoughts during this time.
Yeah.
So
And
that's really
then at the
nice.
end, like they kind of, well, I'm on like the very last page of the chapter. Like the very end of the chapter, they kind of talk, and he's like, I didn't mean what I said about everyone hating you. And she's like, it's true. And he's like, it's not. You're here because we don't hate you. And I just wanted you to know that I don't hate you. And she says, and I have never hated you, Cassia. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, finally, maybe a little bit of healing happening,
Yeah.
maybe.
Here's the thing too. I can't say that. I'm gonna come back to this right here in a couple of chapters, but not right now.
Chapter 13.
Chapter 13. Um.
Okay. Okay. Page 147. Gwen is,
Mhm.
well, 146 and 147. Gwen is freaking out because she got the wrong book for her, what is her name? Meryl,
Meryl.
which is the person
Meryl.
that like Gwen is her assistant.
When I
And
think
she's like
Meryl, I think like
freaking
an
out
old
about it.
witch.
I think of uh I think of The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah, like I see her mentality, but like
Yeah,
decrepit.
yeah, and
Like
academic.
aging, like an old sorceress in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy, were we
So
wrong about that.
yeah, yeah, we were. Um, but they're like, she's freaking out, and the whole time she's freaking out and telling Nesta all this, I was like, I feel like she's playing a prank. I feel like something is weird about this situation. I
That's a
don't,
Slytherin. That's
I
Slytherin right
don't.
there. We don't trust no
Yeah,
one.
I was like, I don't like this. I feel like she's like almost like hazing her.
Yeah.
I was wrong, but
Huh. Can't be
but
too unsure at this time.
I only have one other thing for this entire chapter, and it's basically at the end. But
I had two things, and one of them is on 150. So Feyre, not Feyre, Nesta uses the house powers to find the missing book
yeah,
that Gwen is looking for. And she's like, where's Meryl's office? I must speak to Meryl or whatever. So she goes up there and covertly takes the old one, the old tomb, and puts the new one up.
yes,
Is it tome or tomb?
I think it's
I've heard it
tome.
pronounced I've heard it pronounced both ways and I've done it both ways.
I think it's tome. I always say
I think
tome,
that's
but who
right.
knows? Book.
Um
She changes the books. And that's
yeah.
basically what I commented at too. I was like, I knew working at the library was going to be good for her ass.
I
Because,
was like,
like,
oh, Nesta's got a friend.
yeah, like she did something selfless and kind for someone else.
Yeah. And then the last thing I have is on the last page, and I bet it's about the same thing.
No, that was the last thing I had was
Oh.
talking about just her being good at the library being good for her.
Oh. So my last thing was she was so tired from working out and from doing the from working out, but also so tired from doing her whatever it's called. Fuck. Um Working out and then the library job that she just came home and she was just tired. She was passed out and she was sore. Um and she slept. Like she didn't eat, she didn't do anything. She just passed out, which I mean is good for her. She needs to sleep. Um, but while she was sleeping, she could have sworn that her door opened at one point, could have sworn a familiar beckoning scent filled her room. She reached toward it with a sleep heavy hand, but it was had already gone. And I was like, bet it was Cass. And it was. I
Yes,
mean,
it was.
we'll
We
find out
find out
that it was.
in the
But
very beginning of the next chapter that it was. But I
I
like that
hate that
she
I make
reached
a
for him.
comment like that. Yeah, I hate that I make a comment like that on like the last page of the chapter and on the first page on the net, like literally the next fucking page it says Cassian stood in her room that night looking at her peacefully sleeping. Like, nah, that's not what it says, but like
But yeah,
shit like that.
basically.
I'm like,
And you're like, oh, duh. Because then you
of
feel
course I
like
could.
dumb that you just wrote that down.
Yeah, whatever.
I
Anyways,
definitely get
chapter
that.
14.
Chapter 14. Um, what? Page 161 is the first page I wrote something down on.
Same. Maybe what
Oh,
I
yeah.
say will trigger it. There you go.
Oh my gosh. That last little chapter down underneath the little page break says the
Oh, I
spring
did
court.
comment on that.
Okay, you go first then.
I commented on that despite everything that Gwen went through, because this is kind of where we have like what happened to Gwen.
To Gwen.
So we find out that Hybern goes to Sangrava and um basically laid waste to the entire place, killed anything that moved, and whatever was left over, they were raped. And um the only reason why Gwen is there is because I think it was um
I think it was.
more as
Was
somebody.
more.
Somebody got like no, it was Az because Az went there and killed off every single Highburn soldier that was left, and then found her and then brought her back. There's actually some people saying that they ship Gwen and Az together, and I'm like,
I don't hate it.
I don't
I
hate
don't
it
love it.
either. I don't know
Mm,
much about Gwen though,
yeah.
nor about Az. I mean, I don't know a lot about him either.
Yeah,
At least
fair.
he doesn't have like a book dedicated to him yet. So, I guess
Yeah.
that could be TBH. Um, but
Um, the last paragraph on page 161.
mhm,
All the time. It literally says the spring court made Cassie an itch. It had little to do with the bastard who ruled it, he realized, but rather the fact that the lands lay in perpetual spring, which meant plumes of pollen drifting by, setting his nose to running and skin to itching until he was certain that at least a dozen insects were slithering all over him. All the time. That is my life all the time. Like my allergies are so bad, and it's not just the spring. It's worse. It's the worst in the spring and fall, but it's all the time. Like I have hives all the time. My
yeah,
nose is running all the time. My eyes feel like they're gonna fall out of my head all the time. And I've never seen a paragraph so accurately describe that feeling.
it's great because in the next page, Reese goes, "The feared general felled by seasonal allergies."
For real. Like listen, I'm a badass bitch, but when it comes to allergies, I'm a little baby. Like I can't.
He's just sitting there like itching, like it's like,
Ugh.
bro, you on meth? Like, damn.
Ugh. Then we run into Eris. Well, not run into. They were
It
there to
was a
meet Eris
planned meeting, yeah.
to discuss
I
like,
listen,
nothing
Eris
basically.
no. Eris pissed me off with his little they say a beast prowls these lands now, a beast with keen green eyes and golden fur. I was like, Tamlin,
Right, shut the fuck up. Like,
are you serious? Then he goes on to say, some people think the beast has forgotten his other shape, so long as he is spent in his monstrous form. And though he roams these lands, he does not see or care for the neglect he passes, the lawlessness, the vulnerability. Even his manor has fallen into disrepair, half eaten by thorns. Though rumors fly that he himself destroyed it. And Cassian goes, enough with the double talk. Tamlin stayed in his beast form and is finally getting the punishment he deserves. So what? Like,
right, like okay,
I'm like, bro, same. They say a beast prowls. Is like,
just say what you fucking mean. Like, quit.
it's fucking Tamlin. Like, he's the only beast form High Lord,
Right.
and you're in the fucking Spring Court. Of course it's Tamlin.
Ugh.
I was like, bro, you are
I feel like this whole chapter was just to tell us
fucking
that
annoying.
Tamlin's being a little bitch still, and Tamlin is not shifting out of his beast form, so the
Because he's a
spring
little
court
bit.
is in danger basically.
Yeah. And here's something too that raises some questions for me. He's like, I told you years ago what I wanted, High Lord, and Cassian asked why, and he goes, for the reason I left Morgan untouched at the border, and it's like, untouched, and he goes, you left her there to suffer and die, and he goes, did I? Perhaps you should ask Morgan whether that is true. I think she finally knows the answer, and I'm like,
What the fuck happened?
what happened? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so I wonder if like Eris saved her from a fate worse than death, or for what like she was and he took blame of it all, but somebody else did it.
Right, like I feel like had they touched her, they would have had to take responsibility for her, and then she would have been under Baron's thumb. So like I feel
Yeah,
like things would have been worse because they weren't going to have her marry the High Lord's son now, so they would have just used her for what?
breeding.
Who knows? Yeah, horrible
Well,
shit
and
basically.
I also wonder too if Eris knows how his mother gets treated by Baron, and he's
Yeah.
like, I'm not doing that in my household. But if he doesn't do it, he gets mad. Like Baron will get mad, and Baron, of course, is like will live forever. So, or will he?
Hmm, hopefully not. I'm really hoping he's gonna die
That's
soon.
honestly. Um, but that brought up some things, and I'm like, okay, so he just took blame for everything and said he didn't want her for these reasons, but like knew what was going to happen to save her. Like, maybe.
Hmm. And then we're back to Nesta for a minute at the end of the chapter,
I'm very
and
proud
she
of her.
starts down the fucking staircase again.
But she's not doing it to leave. She's doing it to be her record, to show the progress
Yeah,
she's made.
yeah, and I
And
think
I'm
that she's
proud of her
trying to
for that.
prove herself. Yeah,
Yeah. And I
now. And
think
then she
too,
comes back and banters with the house again.
oh, because she asked the house for the Great War, and the Great War thought it was dull and gave her a smutty book instead.
Yeah.
She's like, "Ooh, I didn't know you had dirty taste."
And then she says, "I think you might be my only friend." And when she gets in the tub, the house is so happy that she said that it gives her a tray in the tub with a big piece of chocolate cake.
Yeah. The I think seeing Gwen and like all the trouble that she's gone through and like how she's still kind of thriving. Like I'm proud of Gwen for like being who she is still despite everything. And I think Nesta's like I could do that too. I just
Yeah.
gotta try.
Well, and I think that
So
that's really relevant in like real life too. Like, um, I'm very open and honest and about my mental health, and I talk about it very openly, like whether I'm struggling or not. And I've had at least two people, one a pretty close friend, tell me that because I'm so open about it, they're finally starting to get help.
yes,
And I feel like that's kind of the same thing here.
yeah, I think um and I don't want a lot of people sitting there saying like, "Oh, well, you're probably faking it" or something like that, or like making lies up to get like attention. And it's like, no, it's because I was shushed and not told to say anything for whatever
Well,
the case and whatever reason. So now I'm saying it so everybody can be like, okay, I could say it. She could say it. I could say it.
yeah. Well, and I hate that too because always thinking the worst of someone else and thinking that someone else is lying about something. For example, homeless people or panhandlers. I saw a quote one time that really was like, yes, because if they're lying and they don't actually need the money, they're not actually homeless, that says something about them, not me for being generous and giving them money. I don't usually have cash to give them, so it's usually not a thing. But like, if I do happen to have some cash, I might give it to them because I would rather help someone, or I would rather them just take that money and waste it on something stupid than me not give it to them if they actually needed it. And it's
Sure.
kind of the same thing. Like, if someone is lying about their mental health, then that is on them, but you can still choose to be kind either way. And that's
Go
just, it
about
says
that.
more about you as a person than it does about them.
Yeah. So they, oh, what is it? There was a cop that I was an intern. I was an intern at a sheriff's department, and there's this officer I was with on a ride along, and we actually saw like a dude and his dog on the side of the road, and that irked her, but also that made her like, all right, I'm gonna go do something. I was like, I have like a couple of dollars I could give. And she's like, no, we're not going to give money because like panhandlers, we don't know what they're doing. Like they could be homeless, they could just be doing this for a job, like, or they could be drug addicts, and like we're trying to obviously stop that. Um, so if you ever see something like this and you are able to stop, like go to a gas station and get like a couple of sandwiches and a gallon of water and get them like provisions
Yeah.
to get them on their way. And you help them, but you also didn't just give them the money, and so you didn't give them the moral choice of what they could use it for.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Or like run through McDonald's and grab them, like
Yeah. Well,
just
and there
something
was
simple
a
like that.
Yeah, and it was actually a super cold day here in Charleston, and there was like a homeless guy that I think he's got like war trauma and
Mm,
mental health issues. So I don't think he's homeless. I think he's homeless because there's just no support for him. Um and because sometimes he'll like run around an empty parking lot and flap his arms. So I think it's just like a mixture of problems. He was sitting underneath two blankets. He had flip flops on, socks, or not socks. He had like shorts and a tank top. And I was like, it is 30 fucking degrees right now. It is cold. He is probably freezing. And we were going through Starbucks, and Will was like, hey, can you add a hot coffee to this? So we pulled over and we gave one of the sandwiches we got to the guy so he could have a hot meal. Not that it was much, but it was something, and a hot
yeah.
coffee. And I was like, I feel great. Like, it just makes you feel good.
Yeah, to like
Spreading the
help someone
niceness.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost you much or do much. Like it just was being kind to someone.
Yeah. Cause like Will was already getting two sandwiches. So he just gave up one of his sandwich, and the coffee was like $2. So like, it's not much. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to buy something, maybe go to the grocery store so you don't have to spend like gas station prices. But
Right, right.
Um, yeah, anyways. Um, chapter 15.
Yes. I like
I
Gwen. Um,
do too.
so Nesta's going down to one of the lower levels of the, excuse you, sir.
Just like, Mom, stop talking. I'm sleeping.
Yeah, he's like, hello, I'm trying to take a nap here. Could you stop? He's reached out and grabbed my shoulder. Anyway, Nesta is going down to shelf a book on the quit on the seventh level of the library. Um, and she's like, free.
He's like, I'm just
He
gonna
just needs
lay
to be
here.
touching me. Anyway, spoiled cats. Um, but she's feeling like some kind of presence down there, and she's like freaked out a little bit. And then Gwen comes along, and she's like, "Oh, let's go." um, and they like don't look, and they feel something falling. And Gwen says, "I can feel something like a cat, small and clever and curious. It's watching." Um, and she like pulls out her um like
Jim.
stone, yeah, her priestess gem, um, which is like a protection talisman kind of. Um, and they get away basically. But she's like, maybe you should just not go down there anymore.
Yeah.
And Nesta's like, but it's my job. And she's like, okay, but like, I'm being selfish here. Like, I don't want you to go down there and bring like a daemon up here. Like, I'm gonna need you to stop and not go down there.
It's
Um,
really funny because the cauldron was super like cat like playful, like curious, watching. So I'm like,
yeah,
what is it?
right, right. Or like,
And
is it Bryaxis? Like, did Bryaxis come back and just nobody knew that?
right. Here's something else too. So when they get up to like a safe level and she puts her like stone away, Nesta looks at her and goes, why don't you wear it on your head like everybody else? And she goes, because I don't deserve to. And I was like, what? And I was
What?
like, okay. So I wonder if maybe she not necessarily had something to do with like Hybern like directly, but what if indirectly she allowed them in? She
I
like,
was wondering if she like hid, like while her sisters were being slaughtered, if she like hid and like saved herself kind of thing.
yeah, and maybe she didn't actually like get raped or anything like that. Maybe she's just traumatized and
And
fearful because of what happened, which is still,
still
a
valid,
cause.
yeah.
Yeah. But then I'm like, oh my God, what if like she feels indirectly involved for what happened?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I wrote something down about that. I was like, I need to know the rest of Gwen's story like now.
Yeah. Um, then we went back to the house.
Oh, and on page 176, the house is just a true friend, man.
She's
Like,
matchmaking, or it's matchmaking at this point.
yes. Like,
And I wonder if it's Feyre's or Reese's doing. Like maybe Reese is like playing like an asshole, but like actually
maybe.
making like doing something with the house, or maybe it's Feyre knowing, or Elaine
Yeah,
actually. I mean,
it could be. I don't know. I crack up though because like it keeps bringing her romance novels and I'm cracking up and she's like, don't tell me you somehow read these, and then it gives her two more books and I'm just like, the house is so funny, and then it makes her go have dinner with Cassian again.
it's matchmaking at its
Yes.
finest.
I think
The
Cassian's kind of an asshole.
yeah. Um uh yeah. There's a lot that happened at the end of this. I didn't have any words. I didn't really know how to express what was happening. I just said, well. I
I
was like,
on page
well,
183 I wrote yep. Because they have a very tense moment where like they're very close and Cassian like grazes his nose along her neck. Um and her hand is on his chest, like, and it's just a very like erotic moment where nothing actually happens.
yeah, it's very tension based.
Yeah.
And it made me blush a little bit. Not really that.
The next
Um,
part though.
yeah, like if that happened to me, I'd probably start laughing because I'd be so awkward. Only because not that it doesn't happen, but I just feel like uh I've been so used to being like alone and like no guy doing that to me that it's just like don't touch me. I'm very Nesta. I'm very Nesta. Like please don't touch me.
Right.
um,
I was cracking up. And then the next page I wrote, well, okay then. Because they basically both go
handle
to
their
their
business.
respective rooms and take care of that. So,
Yep. Except for we don't hear anything about Cassian until the next chapter. We just hear about Nesta and how it's very descriptive. Like, oh,
it is
she went
it
under
is
the
very descriptive.
nightgown, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's yep.
I feel like this is so much more descriptive than the previous or books.
I would agree. Well, yeah, no, I would agree with that. Um,
I feel like
yep.
maybe not like yes, it's descriptive, it explains things, but this one it's a play by play.
Yeah, and it's much more
Before it was
detailed.
like fondled this part while it did this part while this
And then
happened,
barked
and then
out.
it like then he growled as I barked.
Yeah,
And then
oh
this
my
was
god.
like slid one finger in, then slid the second finger in, and then pretended this was this, and then I imagined this, and then I slid the third finger in, and I'm like,
Oh my god.
what? I was like,
And that
okay. I'm like sitting in my bed reading this, like, ooh, should I be reading this after dark? Like, damn,
yeah. It was it
smutty,
was it was
smutty.
something. And that's how chapter 15 ended. And
um,
then
I don't have a lot for chapter 16, so or
I don't
17
have a
really.
lot. I was cracking up though. Because there's a thing. They're like being awkward because they both, you know, had that tension and then they went and handled their own business. And there's a part where he asks her what her book is about and she says the book is about a book. And then like he's like, interesting, sounds great. Like he's not even listening to her and he's like, I'll see you in the
And he
training
gets up
ring or
and runs
whatever.
away.
Right, because he's got a boner. He gets up and like runs away so she doesn't see it. And then she's like looking at her breakfast and she's like, the book is about a book. Idiot. Like, I feel like we've all had one of those moments where we've said something and we're just like, oh my God, did I really
Why
just
did
say
I
that?
say that out loud? Yeah.
And I was like, I love that scene.
And it's funny because their practices for the day are all about the abdominal section. And of course, like, she's already
Yeah.
stared at Cassian's abs, so. And you know what? Of course he's arrogant because there's like a part two where they're like arrogant asshole, and it's like, okay, but like,
Yeah.
yes, he's arrogant, but not in like the obnoxious, off-putting way. Like, at least he's funny about it, and he does it
Yeah.
because it pisses
And
you off,
like
and it's funny.
the things that he's arrogant about are things that he kind of has a right to be like. I don't know that I would say he's
He's a
arrogant.
general, like he
Right. Like
trains people for a living.
he's very proud of what he's done. Um, and I feel like sometimes he puts that arrogance on like a shield because he actually is very self conscious about the job he does. Um, and
Because of
most
his
people don't know
background.
that. Yeah. Like Reese and Az are really, and Moore and Feyre are really like the only ones that know that about him. So he kind of
Yeah.
wears that arrogance as a shield.
Yeah.
Um,
So
then they kind of are talking about, so they're doing the abdominal exercises and yada yada yada. And then she asks about why there aren't female Illyrian warriors. And they're talking about like the blood right and all of the different things you have to do to become an Illyrian warrior. And on page 199, Nesta's like, it sounds barbaric talking about the blood right. And I was just like, it is barbaric. Like,
it
the
is
whole
like just letting
Illyrian
loose and
society is
killing
barbaric.
everybody.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like the fucking purge.
It's like, okay, well, we don't need these people.
Right? And then I don't know if you have anything else, but at the end of the chapter, um, she asks Cassian if he would train the priestesses in the library if she invited them. Um, and he's like, absolutely. Like, I don't know that they would want to train with me, but absolutely. And I love this idea. Like, I feel
100%.
like Gwen is going to be the first one to show up, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's going to take
Mm-hmm.
time, but I like it. I'm here for it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I basically just wrote, I was like, Sniffles. She's so sweet.
Right? Like,
Because I was looking at it and I got teary eyed. I was like, she truly cares.
right? And she's like, this is helping me, so why wouldn't it be able to help them? Like,
Yeah. I love it.
but he also says that she has to get Clotho's blessing, which she immediately gets. Like Clotho's like, probably not very many will come, and she's like, even if one or two comes, it would be worth it. And Clotho's like,
Mm-hmm.
whoever wants to join has my blessing. And Nesta puts up the sign up sheet, and no one shows up. No
Yeah.
one signs up.
But
No one signs up.
but Cassian uses Amren's I guess advice on for him on her and goes, just keep reaching
Yes.
out your hand. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
saw that too.
yes,
Yeah.
nice, Cass, nice.
Because it works for
And
him. Like, I mean, he followed that advice and it worked. Now Nesta is.
yeah, here's the thing though. I hope Ness, because there's like, she is always going up and down those stairs, which whatever, she's trying to beat like a new record. I just hope she's doing this for strength and for health based reasons rather than like become like a gym nut, you know,
Yeah.
where like does nothing but work out, like it gets addicted to it, which there's nothing wrong with that, but like
But it's
there's
kind
more
of
to
like
life than just
replacing
working
one thing
out.
with another. Like,
Yeah.
and at
There's
least this one's
you're not
healthy, but like at a certain point, you're going to strain your body. Like,
yeah, like do something that helps you, like working out, taking a bath, eating chocolate cake, like
Yeah.
self-care based items. So that's all I gotta say about her thing.
Dude, and then on page 201, she gets back to the house and Elaine is there. And I was like, good. Like, I feel like seeing Elaine will be good for her.
I
And then,
don't
like,
think seeing either sister right now is good for her, just based on like
yeah.
the fact that Elaine packed up her studio or her
She feels
room.
betrayed by them.
Yeah, because like they called basically like an intervention, and they didn't actually like call to talk
After
to
they
her about.
abandoned her,
Yeah, so
they
I
abandoned her to her own devices. And then instead of talking to her about it, when not she was very willing to talk, but like instead of attempting to talk to
keep
her about
reaching
it,
out your hand.
yeah, they just fucking gave her an intervention and took her shit. Like,
Right? They're like, okay, these are your options. You have no home to go to. Goodbye. It's like, damn, that's
and
fucked
then
up.
Elaine tries to push her to talk about things that she's not ready to talk about, and
That's
she
when she got
lashes out.
pissed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Elaine tried to push her to talk about their dad. And like Elaine's like, Cassian said he thought the training was helping. It is, but it's only been happening for like 2 weeks now. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna magically fix everything. It's not all of a sudden gonna be better. Things are gonna take time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I started thinking about it, like at first I was like, oh, good, Elaine's there. That's gonna be good for her. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, I mean, they did kind of just ambush her with Elaine.
Yeah.
Like they didn't ask her if
That's
she was
her
ready.
space,
Yeah.
because that's. But don't worry, Cassian is a king for his queen. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
And you know what? Fuck Reese. He pissed me off this episode, or this
This episode.
chapter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, basically this episode, he pissed me the fuck off. Like,
Yeah.
he looks at Elaine, and like Elaine's like, I'm ready to go. And um she's like, she's not getting any better. She's not even trying. And Reese turn to Cass, and his face grave, and goes, Feyre warned her. And Cassian was like, Nesta's making progress. I know she is. Something just set her off. It'll take time, maybe. No more visits from her sisters for the time being, at least not without her permission. If Elaine wants to see her again, let me ask Nesta first. And Reese goes, What about Feyre? And he goes, She doesn't want Feyre here. And then that pissed Reese off, where to the point where like there were no stars in his eyes. And Cassian snapped, Calm the fuck down. They have their own shit to sort
Yes.
out. You threatening to obliterate Nesta every time it comes up doesn't help. And I'm like, Yes,
Snaps.
fuck you,
Yes.
Reese. Fuck you. Go, Cass. You ain't number one no more, bro. Like, go away.
Yeah. Reese
Fuck
is
you.
kind of a dick when it comes to Nesta. Like,
Yeah. It's like you wonder why she acts this way.
which
She's
I
fucking
get it.
wallowing in it.
Like, I get it. He feels protective over his mate. He doesn't like the way that Nesta handled things when she was a human. But she's not human anymore. A lot has happened since then, and your mate wouldn't be who she is if it weren't like if Nesta had gone out and taken care of business, Feyre wouldn't be the badass that she is. So,
Yeah.
like,
And you know what? Nesta could have saved everybody and been with Tamlin.
right?
Probably
Ooh.
not, but
She would have ripped Tamlin to pieces.
ribbons. No, to ribbons.
Yeah.
They ripped them to ribbons in this season, or in this book.
While she roared, and then he would have barked.
Snarled his teeth.
And anyway, that is chapters
Yeah.
9 through 17.
Oh, at the end of this chapter though, I'm really sad because Cassian doesn't go up to her and like say it's all her fault kind of thing, but like the way he handled it
Yeah,
caused
it
her to
wasn't the
like,
best.
yeah, back up. And I think he's just pissed off because of what like Reese was saying, and he was like reeling
Yeah.
from that. But like she got the vacant stare, which means she's reverting back into herself. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Right. She
she was
made so
doing
much
so
progress.
good. Yes.
But I think that she's going to still do good. I mean, that
Yeah.
she might have a little bit of regression because we see that, especially in mental health patients. And yeah, but
It's
I
not
think that
always good and golden.
no, it's not. But
Little over an hour, 15 minutes. Sorry, but got to get through what we got to get through.
we got to get through it. You're
Mhm.
welcome.
It's a big ass book.
It is.
Take a break, pause it wherever you want. I don't care. But anyways,
All
okay.
right.
Until next time.
Bye.